This is Lizzie from Let Zoe Spoil You.
And Sagira from Sagira Salutes You. And together we are Newbie versus Weeaboo. Sagira, Newbie.
Lizzie, Weeaboo.
It's Newbie versus Weeaboo.
Bonjour.
Totally wrong language, but you know. Hello.
Ça va?
Annyeonghaseyo.
I have a bit of cabin fever.
You think you've got cabin fever? This is my 4th week.
True, yeah, it's only my 3rd day. Because I was out on Monday, so yeah, this is my 3rd day. So if I'm going crazy 3 days in, you must be balmy.
Yes, and remember, for 2 weeks of that, I couldn't get in and out of the bath by myself, and I needed help getting changed and going to the toilet. So,
for people who are unaware, Lizzie hurt her foot.
I fell down the stairs. Luckily didn't break my ankle, but, you know, next best thing and all, which was lovely. So I sprained the ankle and I tore all my ligaments.
We did talk about this in the last episode, but if you haven't heard that episode, then go straight into, I can't bathe myself, then it's all a bit confusing.
Yes. So I've been trying to keep myself entertained without having to move. And now we're in a pandemic, so I can't go anywhere if I wanted to.
So that's why we podcast.
Yes, that is true.
Socialising and quarantining and entertaining all rolled into one.
Yes. I don't know what I've done. Oh, goodness. Oh, no. I've pressed a button. Oh, there, okay. I sorted it out. That bit can be edited out. Oh, did you see the expression? I was like, what did I accidentally press?
It was not a good face. I was like, uh-oh. Panic stations. What's happening to technology?
It's okay. I'm not going to press any more buttons. There we go. I'm just taking my hands away from the laptop. You can just hear my lovely voice. It's all we need. Beautiful
voice.
But yeah.
Okay. So we are continuing with the series of Neon Genesis.
Neon Genesis Evangelion.
That's the one. And we are up to episode 3. And according to Netflix, that is called The Silent Phone. So the whole thing opens with Shinji inside the robot. Now, we did talk about this last time. You said it's not a robot, correct?
It's the show. It's a mecha show. It's not a robot. No.
Right. But when I was listening to the dub, everyone called it a robot.
Yeah, the kids in it call it a robot because they don't know what it is yet.
Well, I don't know what it is yet, so I'm calling it a robot.
Fine. I mean, yeah.
I fully understand the complications of this show. I will be referring to robot.
Yeah. Okay. They call it a robot. The genre is mecha. Then stuff you don't know yet.
Exactly. Mystère. So, yes, he's inside the robot and he's shooting. And at first we think, hey, the angel's given up. He's just stood there. But no, it's a simulator. He's sat there being knackered while firing his guns at nothing.
Well, it's more than knackered. He's completely despondent. It's not that he's tired. It's the fact that he has just literally switched everything off and he's just going through the motions because he's trying to make the adults happy because that's how he copes with life.
Poor boy.
Yeah.
So he's pew-pew-pew-pewing.
Yeah, learning how to shoot properly so the next time there's an attack he knows how to use his gun and doesn't have to just, like, you know, go unconscious and rage out. Doesn't work.
We're back into Miss Hero's apartment and she's been a bum in bed. She's had long days, long nights and wants to sleep.
Yep. Which is fair enough, considering that she just got off a night shift and has to go back onto a night shift. She's like, just let me sleep, child. I work hard.
And she receives a phone call for a development meeting, as the subtitle said. And it's basically talking about how Shinji has a lack of friends, which then teaches us about hedgehogs.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Need to know. The social norms of the hedgehog.
Well, it makes sense by the end of the next episode. Because, you know, it's the hedgehog's dilemma. But it's just like how, like, absolutely, like, antisocial Shinji is and how reclusive he is and how just makes no effort to connect to the world about him. So at the moment he's pretty much catatonic, really.
And she says, like, do you know a hedgehog? And she's like, yeah, I think I've heard, whatever the dialogue was. But so are we to assume that hedgehogs are wiped out, or they're just not common?
Probably not very common, because when the teacher is saying about like how many species got wiped out in the second impact, you kind of just assume that the hedgehog might have been one of the species that got wiped out, or at least like, you know, severely endangered.
But that happened in the year 2000, you said, right?
Yeah.
So I understand if Shinji doesn't know what hedgehog is because he's only 14, whereas other people, they're older than 15.
Yeah.
So if there was hedgehogs before, surely they would know what a hedgehog is before the apocalypse.
I don't know. Cynic is not exactly the most common of Japanese animals, I don't think. It's not like... I was about to say insidious. But insidious is not the word. Not deciduous. The insidious hedgehog and deciduous. They're not... That word you use when something is local to that country. And if it's not that word.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like how Australia has kangaroos, but we don't have kangaroos. So it could be forgiven that some people, they went, have you seen a kangaroo? Just to make sure that they might have seen a kangaroo.
True. So then we move on to Shinji's school.
Yep. And
the children are talking about the destruction of the robot and what it has done and how, and I've written here, all calling it a giant robot. Yeah. And then from that, they go on to a lesson where, like you said, they talk about the second impact, which, from what I could understand, was a meteor hitting the North Pole and making the world basically drown.
Because melted all the ice caps and, flooding.
Which is very scary because that could actually happen.
Yes, totally.
And from that, Shinji gets a message saying, "Are you the robot?" And he goes, "Yeah."
Yeah, because he's
a celebrity.
Dumb. Yeah, and so basically, the kids are trying to work out if he's transferred at the same time as this new kind of unit has appeared, and they're like, "Well, isn't that a bit fishy? This new unit has appeared and is fighting in the streets. And now there's a new transfer kid, and I wonder if they're the pilot." And Shinji's like, "Yeah, I'm the pilot," and it's like, "You dummy. You know nothing about your national security. You're meant to kind of keep that stuff a bit more covert." And they're all asking questions, and he's like, "Oh no, that's a government secret." I'm like, "Yeah, but what about the weapon?" "Well, there's this knife thing," and I'm like, "No,
you are a government secret."
Yeah, exactly. Even freaking Ray, who's all beat up in the corner, has managed to seem to have escaped anyone realizing that she's been in a mecha.
And then two of the lads are not impressed. They're like, "Nah, we don't like you."
Well, one of them is seriously impressed because one of them loves weapons and fighting and robots and wants to pilot it. The other one is, well, his sister nearly got crushed to death by the rubble from the fight, and he's miffed because it's like, this robot has caused so much collateral damage and my sister is collateral damage, and he's kind of like, well, if Shinji's the pilot, I'm going to take it out on Shinji. And he kind of knows that it's not exactly Shinji's fault. He can't really help the collateral damage when fighting giant invading alien angel things, but at the same time it's just for his own sanity he needs to punch him just because he owes his sister that much. And it would have ended there if Shinji hadn't been the wussy pain in the ass that Shinji is, and is all be like, "Oh, it's not like I wanted to fight anyway." And it's like, don't say that, because this guy's sister could have died and you didn't even want to attempt to save mankind. You're just that's not the attitude. So he gets another punch for that, which he kind of deserved for being a wuss.
And you're a teacher.
Yeah. I don't encourage me punching the student.
The sirens are sounding for an evacuation. Whoop, whoop. As something is coming, which turns out to be a different kind of angel.
Yeah.
Different to the first one that we saw. And then the city goes into lockdown. Now, I was thinking, can you imagine if this virus happened to us, which we're currently going through, and then suddenly it was a literal lockdown. Suddenly these walls started coming up from the ground, and literally the army was out in seconds, and how freaked out would you be? To these people it's normal because they go into lockdown all the time, but for us, if that just suddenly happened, it's like the government has kept all these secrets of an amazing lockdown, Like, that would cause even more panic than
I think, if you were like, all of a sudden, just like your entire building was shut off from daylight and then started sinking under the ground, you'd be a bit like, what is going on? But, you know, I mean, they have lived through like the extinction of half of mankind, so they're a little bit more prepared for like what can happen. But they don't really know about the angels and stuff yet, and like not really they know something is invading. I mean, as they say in this episode, like, it happened 15 years ago and it's been 15 years since an angel has turned up, and then the next one's come around in 3 weeks. I do like the fact that she's like this, and this is Iseto makes that comment, it's like the worst type of guy, and it's like at the same time the angel's coming in looking like a flying penis, and it's like, ha, laugh at men. Get that shot in there, well done.
Always back to penis. Yep, I've written that. Angel attacks are becoming more frequent. Shinji is hating life because he's back in the robot and he doesn't want to be there. And then the two lads go, hey, do you know what we should do? We should go have a look. Because, you know, what says like disobey the government more than everything going into lockdown?
Basically like teenagers at the moment, you know, don't go and hang out on streets. Do you know what we should go do? Get a gang together and go and hang out on streets. It's so weird how, like, I just didn't think about it. All I knew is I wanted to talk about the series because I love it, but it's a little bit too close to home at the moment, and you're just like, wait a minute. But yeah, the two mates are like, well, if we're gonna die, and we could die down here, if we're gonna die anyway, at least I want to die seeing this freaking like giant like mecha creature out and about fighting and having an awesome time. It's like, you know, they think it's all going to be cool and stuff, and this is like a play on like how mecha has always been. Like, it's always portrayed as these robots and the fights are really cool, and there's so many people in Japan have like mecha modeling kits and all of this kind of paraphernalia for it, and you know, it's cool. So of course teenage kids would be like, it's cool, I want to go and see a real life giant robot. I mean, I would be the same. I'd be like, oh yeah. It's always marked as like a cool thing, and which is why Ava is so clever, and why it was one of the changes of like the like genre when they actually get into like the cockpit. And normally when you get into the cockpit's always really cool and really shiny and it's awesome, and they go in there and it's like, this is a horrifically traumatizing experience. This is not fun. This is not like, yeah, shooting guns at aliens, whoopty fighting for glory. This is literally watching a guy having a nervous breakdown and absolutely losing the plot and nearly dying, and they're like, yeah, this is not as fun as it was before. This is not your normal giant robot story. Good.
So you said that they don't know about the angels.
I think that, I mean, I think they don't really know like exactly that they keep turning up, and like, because some of them, I mean, obviously the teenagers, the 14-year-olds wouldn't have seen the first one. Adults do, but it's this thing that's like, it's adults versus children. So I think adult society does, but we're watching all of this from the perspective of kids that weren't around for the first impact, so wouldn't have seen an angel yet. And because they say that like no one is telling us anything and they want to see for themselves what's out there. So I do think like obviously the adult generations know, but the people we're following, the children, don't really know what's out there.
So they're not being all they know is that there are robots being deployed to fight something, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah. And even then they didn't really know that there was robots being like, until it kind of smooshed a building and they went, wait a minute, there's a giant robot out here.
Right, so they're having the fight, and Shinji freezes. He can't fight. He's not like doing what he was doing in the practice. He just went, rah!
Yeah.
And he falls, and then he sees his mates on the floor, and he's like, what? So you're not expecting to see them. Then, as you say, they jump inside. The angel attacks, and Shinji feels all kinds of pain.
Yep. Yeah. It's a complicated story because basically Shinji, I mean, he says it himself, he's a coward. He doesn't want to be there. The interesting thing about Shinji as the main protagonist of this is generally the main protagonists of anime shows are not whiny, wussy children that don't want to be there. They are very much either heroes, anti-heroes, or reluctant heroes. There is not even the reluctant hero in Shinji. This is just a kid that's just like, I don't want to do this. The only reason he's doing it is because he's kind of got no choice and doesn't really know how to say no to adults, because he's not a very capable child. He's not very like he's a pushover and he's weak and he just goes through the motions because that's the easiest way to protect himself. If he just agrees to everything, then he can never be told that he's wrong, so he never has to feel that. And if he just goes along with what he's told to do, no one can be disappointed in him because he's doing what he's told, even so that he is actually disappointing people by behaving like this because he's showing no personality and no like connection. So like, first, like, he gets the gun and he's been trained, and he's just been trained by going through the motions and going, this is what I have to do because I've been told. And then he gets in the situation and he's like, I have gun, I shoot thing. And then he just shoots it, and then it's like, well, that didn't work. And then he realises that the angel is like, I can still whip you around the place. And you see him, he gets up and he runs away. He's just like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to run away from this fight because I'm not... I'm not a hero, I'm not a fighter, I don't have confidence. And they're like, look, take the other gun up. But because he runs away, he gets his umbilical cable slashed, and then he's only got 5 minutes remaining. And yeah, so he gets smacked into the hill, and then he sees the guys, and then he's not even registering that those are his friends down there. He's like, oh no, this is reality, this is not a simulation, I can't just run from this, there's people. But it's not Shinji who wants to save them, it's not Shinji that wants to get them into the mecha unit. It's Misato that's like, okay, we're going to have to get those kids in there, otherwise they'll die in this fight. So they're like, so it's Misato is the one that like takes the responsibility to make sure the children are safe, and Shinji is just like, I don't know what to do. So he does the only thing, and he kind of just goes a bit mental and goes, you know what, I'm going to just disobey all adult rules because it's the 90s. And I'm just going to run screaming and take out my angst and my anger on this thing and hope for the best. And also secretly hope that it kills me. Because if it kills me, then I don't have to worry about this anymore. Because, I don't have any friends. I don't have anyone that cares for me. I have, like, the most dick of a dad, like, who you can't really call family. Like, you'd be quite happy if the, like, angel killed him.
Yeah. And then it cuts back to the school after all that happens. And we find that Shinji has not been around since then. He's become the full hedgehog and gone away. And this episode ends with one of the lads phoning Shinji to find out how he is. And there's a lovely rain scene.
Yes. I think, is it Toji? I can never remember their names. It'll take me a couple of episodes for some of the names to click in. But
the one with the glasses is Ida.
And I think the other one is Toji. So Toji goes to call him, but realises that he's got nothing to actually say and doesn't know, because he's antisocial a bit himself, but he doesn't know what to say to Shinji. So he never makes the phone call, because he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of worried about this kid, but I wouldn't know what to say to him. And then it ends with like that lovely pause of the rain, and you're like, oh, the use of nothing to make you feel everything. It gives you that moment to digest everything and let it all sink in and mull over so that you're ready for the next one.
Yeah, because it's like there's so much that happens in that last bit with like the screaming and the fighting and the flashes and all that kind of stuff. And then just to end with silence and rainfall, it's like wash away what just happened.
Yeah.
Every day.
See, very well made. Very well made.
Symbolism.
Yes.
Episode 4. Now, it's said on Netflix that it's called Rain After Running Away.
Okay.
However, halfway through the episode, it's called The Hedgehog Dilemma.
I've noticed that every episode has 2 titles.
Right.
So the first half is that, and the second half is the other one. So when it does the eye catch, there's another sub-episode for the second half.
I do prefer The Hedgehog Dilemma.
Yes.
Because that raises all kinds of questions.
Yes. And also explains things.
Exactly. So once again, we start with a lovely rain. We're back in the apartment.
Yep.
Are we? Yeah. Because she's going, Shinji, get up. It's been 3 days. Ma. And when she opens the door, no Shinji.
No.
He gone.
He ran away.
He not there.
Shinji no baka. Yeah, Shinji, you idiot.
He coward and run.
Yeah.
So the boys come over and they're like, hey, we've come to see how he's doing. But once again, lies, and she's like, oh, he's off doing training.
Well, they can't say that they've lost their most important asset. It's like, of course. She lies so easily, so convincingly. But then she is a government official, and this is a giant secret organisation, secret weapons.
And also, she is his carer, really.
Yeah.
She's meant to be responsible for him, and she's lost him. So, well done. Been inside for 3 days, but no, you just haven't noticed that there's been no one there. It's been it.
Well, she's also worked a hell of a lot. So she's always at work. So she probably just pops in and kind of goes, hello, I'm asleep now.
And where do we find Shinji? He's on a train.
Of course he is. He's riding a circle line. He's basically... Well, the thing is, he doesn't have anywhere to go, and he doesn't know where to go. So he sits on this circular line for a bit until the train finally goes, I'm not going anywhere anymore. And he's like, well, I can't just ride this train round and round because he doesn't know where to run away to. So he just kind of keeps going. I mean, lovely, beautiful shots of him sitting on the edges of cliff and looking at how beautiful the city are and how much the natural world is still left in this area. But he's got absolutely no focus of what he's meant to be doing of his life.
Yes, but from the train, he goes, well, I guess I'll go home, and then goes to a cinema.
Yeah, he's like, oh, but then, but what's interesting about the cinema is the kind of people are in it is bums and alcoholics. It's all that stuff I was telling you about, that yeah, some horny teenagers, but it's so 90s Japan. It's that it's the the dissatisfied youth that are going, fuck you adults, we'll do what you want, and we're going to do something like make out in a public place, and which is oh, you don't do that in Japan. You don't do PDA, no public displays of emotion and kissing where other people can see you. And then it's obviously the alcoholic man passed out and a homeless man passed out, and obviously there was a lot of problems with homelessness and alcoholism during this period. So it's a little snapshot of what actual Japan is looking like, and Shinji being a despondent teenager is just I've ended up with all the things that represent the worst of what was happening in Japan at the time.
And then from the cinema, because he has a little snooze, he goes outside and the sky turns pink and there's some very strange noises. What does this represent, this bit?
It's just his psyche fracturing. He freaks out because he's been in the dark and he's been trying to think. Then he comes back outside and he re-sees the city, and the city's just closing in on him, and the sound is just it's just everything is just noise, basically. He needs to be out of the city because it's beginning to represent being trapped and being forced to do something in an unfamiliar place, in an unfamiliar situation, and he needs to be out of there. He needs to clear his head, basically.
So he does. He goes for a lovely walk, and he walks through, the way it's been drawn, this bit, it looks like he's walking through paintings. The flowers look like they're inside a painting, and the water looks like it's not real in comparison to the other scenes.
You've got the city is very much the realistic, and by the time he's walking through rice paddies, it's almost like it's an other beautiful. It's the Japanese natural world that you would have found. It's nature, and it's and Japan's obviously very much into its nature and its natural world and its natural beauty. Once you get away from the hustle and bustle and insanity and build up of the cities, you get the country, which is beautiful and calm and lovely.
And then from that, we pop over to Ray, who's getting scanned in the machine. And we find she is also 14, but we knew that because she's in his class, in Shinji's class.
Yeah.
And then a line, I don't know if it's the same for the sub, but in the dub, it says, and I found this interesting, we must trust the piloting of our Avas to 14-year-olds. We have no other choice.
Yeah.
You'll
find out about that later.
Plot point.
Plot point, yes. There is a reason why they have to be that age. You just won't know it yet.
But not just yet. But yes, I thought that was a good thing to bring up. Is that what they say in the sub as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So that is a very big plot point that can't be misquoted. And then from there, how do you pronounce her name? Misato? Misato.
Yeah, okay. Misato is the guardian stroke, one of the leads. And then it's Ritsuko is the doctor.
Okay, so Misato, she starts giving Shinji a dress down.
Yep, because he's being apathetic, useless lump of a child.
But that was after the fight, wasn't it?
It's kind of a flashback to her basically chewing him out, and because the thing is, any other kid would have gone, I don't want to do this, or yeah, I do want to do this, or if it was a normal, not normal, but if it was a pre-New Wave mecha, character in this situation would have rise to the challenge and be like, yeah, or would be absolutely like shouting abuse and refusing. There'd be more passion in either negative or positive, and Shinji's just like, yeah, but it turned all right, so I just did it. Because he's got none of that drive and ambition and typical traits of the hero.
Is it that he doesn't understand how important it is, or he just doesn't care?
Doesn't care. You're not meant to like Shinji when this first starts out, but you're also meant to realise how this is far more realistic than you get a magic robot turns up, you get in it, and then you're a hero and everything's good. Yeah. This is a very much more deals with the psychological toll it takes on having lives depend on you, having a thing that like feeling pain and fighting God knows what, like, you know, being sent to war basically. If you were 14 and suddenly went, and now you are piloting this tank in the middle of this war, go, kill those people over there, watch out for bombs, and then also feeling all the pain of every time a bomb exploded on you. It's like there's a lot of PTSD, and it does deal with that.
After that, Ida is playing War in the Fields because he likes that. He likes that kind of fantasy. And he finds Shinji, who's walking around. And they bond over a fireplace where Shinji kind of, in not very many words, basically tells him it's not as great as he thinks it is, as in Ida. Because Ida's like, yeah, robots, woo! And he's like, nah.
No. If you're like being like, you know, drowned in weird umbilical fluid and like having all your nerves connected and like feeling everything and being told to kill stuff but not really knowing how, yeah, no, psychological toll. Also physical toll. It hurts.
They then go to sleep in a tent, and the next day, out of the mist, comes security and intelligence.
Yep.
Just wandering, like, oh, hey, we found you in a field.
Probably been watching him the whole time, because like Misato says that she's not going to look for him because she's kind of thinking if she gives him space he'll come back. You start seeing Misato turning from this woman who's like, I've taken this child in for my own gain, like, to going, actually I care about the well-being of this boy. And the reason she's so angry is because she wants Shinji to fight her. She wants Shinji to shout back and show that there's more to him, and just stop listening to everything he's being told and actually, like, you know, come out of his shell and live a bit more. And she wants him to start being a bit more of a normal child in this situation, but also recognizing that he is in pain and he's finding things difficult. And it's nice seeing her develop and being much more caring as like the mother figure to him.
We see some of that in the confrontation from when he gets back, because she's like, you ran away. You've got duties here. You've got responsibility. And he's like, nah, I'm good. Let Ray do it.
Yeah. I was like, I know. But the thing is, he's got this line, it's like, what kind of person would I be if I left all the responsibility to her? Oh, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And it's like, that's right, Shinji. You're kind of a little dick, aren't you? Yeah. You're kind of a bit of a self-centered dick. But you know what? Look who his father is. And he also admits when he's talking to Ida that you realise that he doesn't have a mother. So he only has a father, and his father is Lord of the Dicks. So like, it's just like, it's like, so yeah, poor Ray's now like, because you still don't know at this point why the hell Unit 0 is weirdly plugged in that weird place. You see it kind of twisted against a wall for like a flash of a scene. You don't know what happened to Ray to cause her injuries, and now this new mecha is being like reconfigured for her, and you're like, this girl's going through a lot.
She hasn't said a word yet.
Well, she has. She says, that's the emergency broadcast, I'm going on ahead, meet you there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But in that very like deadpan Ray kind of manner. But I mean, you'll find out all about Ray later, and there's so much to go. And Misato's like, she'd rather, like, if Shinji is really hurting and this is really, she'd rather him just go off and not be totally damaged and never come back and function as an adult than stay and continue doing this. And the fact that it shows that she cares.
Shinji is escorted, as he has resigned. He's escorted off. The parents are like, you can't know anything anymore. You don't work here. Bye-bye.
Yep.
So they're escorting him to the train station, but he sees his two friends there, and he's like, punch me in the face.
Yeah. So I deserve a punch in the face, and it's like, oh, Toji, you've got so much more like balls than Shinji has. Like, you know, you are the kind of anime protagonist that, you know, we normally get. The ones that's like, I've got some conviction, but he also got told off by his little sister for hitting Shinji in the first place. But now they've all bonded, and they all admit that, like, you know, and they also admit that they've seen what it's like inside the cockpit, and kind of like, yeah, it's quite harrowing on you. We'll, you know, I'll beat up anybody who says anything bad about you because I've seen what the psychological toll it was taking on you in that fight.
And they were kind of making him realise that what he's actually fighting for, rather than, you know, don't think about yourself. Like, they didn't say this to him, but it's kind of an effect of, don't think about yourself. We are, like, appreciative that you are fighting for us. Because they don't know that he's resigned, do they? They just think that he's going somewhere.
Yeah, they're like... And Shinji needed that, because this is what the story keeps coming back to, how much it's about these children and their choices in the world and how important they are in the world. And it's like Shinji having something common and something, rather than adults telling him what to do, he's now got his own peers and people he can respect saying thank you for what he did and appreciating him for what he did, rather than just being told what to do.
Misato says the line, he doesn't know how to relate to others. And I thought that was another important line. Yeah. Because it kind of makes him sound autistic.
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, that kind of gives the sort of backstory that we haven't explored yet of why he's so isolated. By that line, it makes out like he doesn't socialize and he doesn't talk to people. But why is that? What happened in his past to make him like that? Yeah. You know, so that's very intriguing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'll find out.
Yep. We're going to find out. So then the train comes, the train goes, and we are left with the longest pause.
Yes.
Of two people staring at each other.
But you need it because you've got to transcribe and put into place all the feelings they must be having and try and work out what the right thing to say in that moment. Because the train comes and then you hear Shinji, he hears Misato's voice saying, like, good luck or something like that. What is it she says? She says something like positive, and it snaps him out of his thing. It's like, actually, no, there is one person in this world that seems to care about me, and he's not used to adults caring about him, and suddenly he snaps out of all of this, like, self-loathing and not knowing where he belongs, because there is one person that cares about him and was offering him a home and a family with her, and he's just like, and then when the train disappears, he sees her, and he's got to process that moment of, like, he's just heard internally her voice, like, showing him compassion and love. Then the one person he was like, oh, I want to see, is suddenly standing there, and she's giving him time to work out what he wants from this. And yes, it's a very long pause, and then you can hear the background music of the train station, you can hear the announcements of the trains and where they're going and who they're for, but it allows you to kind of just digest everything. It's very rare that things can use pauses well, because sometimes it just seems like it's dragging on for ages, and sometimes it's a bit too art house. And then this one, there's reasons behind the moments of silence and the stillness, because there is so much to digest in this series, and Shinji's psyche that's all over the bloody shop. And then eventually he just says, I'm home, and she's like, welcome home.
Is that what she says in the sub? Welcome home.
Yeah.
In the dub it says welcome back, Shinji.
Yeah, it's a typical, like, that Tadaima, that I'm home, welcome back. Yeah. It's kind of a common use of words.
And after that, credits.
Yeah.
And then we're on to episode 5, which will be in the next Newbie versus Weeaboo. Woohoo. Episode 5 and episode 6.
Yes. Very exciting stuff. Yeah.
I am getting into it. Like, the first couple of episodes was a bit hard going because there's so much to explore. It's setting it up for what you need to know later. Yeah. But obviously there's so many secrets that you're not putting it together just yet. Once things start to calm down and things have been mentioned, they have their moments when they calm down.
I was going to say, no, this was them being calm.
That's what I mean.
This is the calm before the storm.
Well, no, because, like, the first episode is poor kid just gets thrown into a situation. It's all fight. in this situation, and you're like, why is he in that situation? What has he got to do with anything? Why is his dad like that? Blah, blah, blah. And there's all these questions. And then the last 2 episodes that I just watched, because this bit is calmer.
Yeah.
Like, we had a couple of fights, but majority of it was story.
Yeah. And character development. Very good character development.
It gave you time to digest what was happening and ask those questions.
Yeah.
You know, the more deeper questions, looking into it, rather than who's this boy and why did he get into Mecca? It's more, who is this boy and why is he the way he is? And like I say, the questions like, why do they need 14-year-olds? These are questions that, like you said, aren't going to be answered just yet, but it keeps it in mind for later on.
Yeah.
And then you go,
It weaves a very good story. I remember the first time I watched it, I did remember going, oh, it's amazing. And then going, oh, it's got a bit slow. Like, what's going on? And then I'm going, oh, no, I get it now. Rewatching it, I'm just like completely on my edge of my seat going, oh my God, I forgot how amazing this is. No, I never forgot how amazing it was. But it's just like, wow, this is every bit as good as I remember it being. And I'm so intrigued by what's going to happen next and how the pieces put together again, and I'm so excited for you to see some of the stuff and some of the moments. Like one of the moments that was in the 3rd episode when like you see the hand and the armor plating has all been melted off and whatever's underneath it has fingernails, and you're like, there's a human hand underneath there, what the fudge? And like the first time I watched it, I'd missed that. I'd missed the fact that you see a thing with fingernails, and I'm just like, why is this giant robot type thing got fingernails underneath that? Regenerating like maybe soft tissue in an eyeball is one thing, but like, why would it need to have fingernails?
Questions. But we will find out more in the next Newbie versus Weeaboo.
Yes.
So, as we are in lockdown and as we are in quarantine, is there anything you would like to suggest for people?
I mean,
to watch, to listen to?
I just got Disney Plus. And The Mandalorian is every bit as good as everybody says it is. I've only watched the first episode, but whoo, it was good. Goes really fast. I was like, oh my goodness, these episodes are only 20 minutes. No, it was 40 minutes. It's just really well paced and really like well done. And it has practical effects and special effects and really intriguing world. And I like the fact that it's set in such a different timeline to like the rest of Star Wars. It's such its own thing. So yeah, really, really enjoyed that. Then I've just been watching anime, my usual length of like watching the latest series of Haikyuu at the moment, and like, what's it, Smile Down the Runway, and lots of other good animes. Carol and Tuesday, another very good anime. And for my TV watching, I've been watching Orphan Black, which, my God, the girl is a phenomenal actress. It's the British-American co-production about the woman that finds out that she's a clone, and then there's more clones, and then how their lives intersect, and big government conspiracy and stuff like that. Very cool.
I'm going to suggest a podcast. If you enjoyed the TV series The Good Place, which I did, I was very happy with how it ended. There is a podcast called The Good Place, the podcast. And it's presented by Mark Evan Jackson, who plays Sean, like one of the demons. And it's just a really nice behind-the-scenes look at each episode. So if you haven't seen it, then you can watch an episode, then listen to the podcast. Or you can I suggest watching it before you listen to the podcast.
Spoilers much.
Massive spoilers. But yeah, it's a really nice podcast. It's nice and calm. It's funny. And they just talk about like life questions and things and how they came to certain storylines. And I just found it really interesting. I'm only up to, I think they're still doing season 2 at the moment. And I've seen them all, so no spoilers for me. But it's a very nice podcast, and I would suggest it if you want to listen to something rather than watch something. Or both.
There we go. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's my suggestion. Okay, so that's today's podcast.
Woohoo! Thanks for listening. As per always, you can find us on all these magical social media links. Mine are literally all Let Zoe Spoil You in various ways. If you want to change from thinking about like angsting teenagers and giant robots and want to read some homoerotic, supernatural stories, go and check out my book. And or if you like horror movies, especially horror movies that deal with demonic possession, go check out my other podcast, Beneath Your Skin. Plugs. I've got them. Ooh, like plugs in Ava. There are plugs in there. There are plugs in me. That makes me sound like a giant robot.
No need to know about your plugs.
Not my plugs. Not those kind of plugs.
Here's my social media, and yeah, just have a look at what I do. I have nothing to plug.
You poor soul, you unfortunate soul. We'll find you something to plug, don't worry.
I need a big plug. I need a great big plug.
It's all right. There are plugs for everyone, you know.
Get my plugging career going.
From a weeaboo, this is Jane.
And from a newbie, it's bye.